Hello and welcome to the Virtual Concert Hall's live show. This is going to be such a fun show as we have a brilliant violinist, Emil Chudnovsky, on the show. He is not only a fantastic musician but also a very charismatic and charming and highly engaging speaker. And also he'll be performing live for us. And so I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a blast. Let's get it started. Before I introduce my guests today, for everyone who's seeing our broadcast for the first time, welcome first of all to the Virtual Concert Hall's live show, and welcome also to the Sound Espressivo Competition 2021. And I want to tell you a little bit about this, okay? This is a really, really interesting competition that just started last year. We're in our second year now, and it's going to be really interesting, so hang in there. There's 5 important aspects of our competition that I want to tell you about. It's really quite a fascinating and unique opportunity for competitors and young musicians to be on the virtual stage, to perform for the international music community. So the first important thing is that there are no time limits for our semi-finalists and finalists. So people who are preparing large pieces of repertoire, long pieces, or even a set of pieces by the same composer, whatever it is that you like, we can cater for it. The second thing is that there are no repertoire requirements, so you can perform anything you like. You know, if you're really interested in playing all of Beethoven's violin sonatas, go for it, right? This is a chance to really try something different, experiment. We welcome, we have a tech crew who will take care of everything, so if you want to work with different visuals, that's also possible as well. It's a chance to really show your artistic voice. The third thing is that there is immediate feedback from jury members. We talked about this in our prior broadcasts, a few weeks ago, and that, what is it that performers want right after they play? Not only do they probably want some applause, but they want affirmation. And for immediate feedback to be given to them by the jury members, that's huge. That's something that where they can actually feel like they're being heard and that they can improve on something. There's a mini masterclass right off the bat. So that's the third thing. The fourth thing is that our prizes have a total value of over $100,000 US, and that's incredible. We don't give away any cash prizes, but with all the collaboration, with all the networking, all the performance opportunities, career coaching, graphics design, website design, and how to be an agent, how to be your own manager, all of these things add up to a really incredible, unique opportunity, and it's something really world class. The fifth thing is that every round of the competition is live and broadcasted. So it's not recorded and then put on later on. It's live. So you perform live for a virtual audience all over the world. And it's just a fantastic opportunity to play from, I guess, your living room. I competed myself in the same living room and in the 2020 Sound Espressivo competition. And it was broadcasted and I was a prize winner. And this is a really great way to show yourself and to network and connect with others. And now I am your host. So if anybody you know would be interested or you yourself will be interested, please head to our website. You'll find an application form there. It's very simple to apply and we look forward to hearing you. And what's more, our judges are an accomplished and incredible bunch that we are going to meet. So the broadcast today, as well as the broadcasts that are coming up almost daily this week, and also until November 30th, which is our deadline, we'll be featuring our guest judges and contestants from the 2020 Espressivo competition. And what is that doing? Why do we do that? It's in order to have you be a part of our community, to introduce you to everyone, and so that when you become a part of the show, whether it is watching the semi-finals or the finals, you know everyone and you become more aware of what these people do in our community. And so without further ado, I would love to introduce our guest tonight, our guest judge, violinist Emil Chudnovsky. So my guest today, I'm so pleased and excited to interview him. And he won the first prize in the 11th International Churchy Violin Competition in Naples with the Violin Concerto, which he'll be performing for us live very soon, just a cadenza. And he has now won numerous prizes in competitions. He has performed all over the world, in the UK, all over Europe, in Asia, South America, and of course the US. He has released CDs, which you will see, and these CDs include the music of Bruch, of Saint-Saëns, and his third CD called The Golden Age is a beautiful album released by a Chinese record label, JB Records. And I hope you release some more soon because your playing is beautiful, Emil. His studies have brought him to the Manassas College of Music, the Juilliard School, Manhattan School of Music, and the Yale University. You may actually recognize his voice from the Classical Music podcast, which is a fascinating podcast which you can still find on the Kurov Academy Facebook pages or on YouTube. And it's just fascinating to hear him speak with professors and musicians all over the world. And so without further ado, welcome to the show, Emil. It's such a pleasure to have you. And I understand, I'm going to hopefully put you on to show everyone that you'll be performing with the Manassas Symphony Orchestra at the Hylton Performing Arts Center on October 23rd, which is coming up very soon. And this concert proves to be an incredible, where you'll be performing the Beethoven Violin Concerto, which is the same concerto you played to win the first competition. So I'm going to have you just say hi, and then without further ado, if you could play for us, that would be incredible as well.
Hi everyone. One thing about the Beethoven, I sent out an email to my local mailing list pointing out that I actually have a history with the concerto. So I should hasten to point out that the first competition that I ever won, the Corci International in Naples, the only reason I played the Beethoven in the final round of that competition is because it was obligatory. If you speak with 100 violinists, 99 of them will tell you that playing Beethoven in the final round of an international competition is suicide, and the 100th violinist who tells you otherwise is wrong. And my next time playing the Beethoven Concerto after that first ever competition was when I was preparing for one of my last competitions. My mother was performing. My mother was Nina Bellina, great concert violinist. She was performing down in Williamsburg when I was preparing for the Premio Paganini, and I was supposed to leave on Monday. And a week before I left, I got a phone call from her student telling me not to panic, but that she had fallen off the stage in rehearsal, broken her leg, and could I please come on Wednesday and have the first rehearsal with orchestra and replace her for a concert on Friday and Saturday.
Wow.
Which was a little tricky because I was preparing the Brahms concerto and the Paganini first concerto for the Paganini competition. So on 2 days' notice, I had to prepare the Beethoven as well, go to Williamsburg, rehearse with the orchestra, perform it on Saturday, and hop a plane on Sunday to get to Genoa on Monday.
So it sounds like every time you've played it, there's always been some sort of nerve-wracking event. Yeah, it's been like, oh my goodness. And I hope this upcoming concert is a lot more relaxed for you, that there's nothing that stressful.
There's just a global pandemic. Other than that, we're fine.
Other than the whole world is still in a calamity and still recovering. Yeah. So, would you like to play some of the cadenza for us and just show us? You tell us about,
Sure.
what we're about to hear as well.
Actually, let me tell you a little bit about what you're about to hear. I'm doing the Kreisler cadenzas for the Beethoven, which I grew up with, and I probably because of that can't shake my preference for them. But these are proofs positive that Fritz Kreisler wasn't just a great violinist, but a really wonderful composer. You have the entire first movement of the concerto summarized in his cadenza to the first movement, where he doesn't just task the violinist with referencing the material from the movement, but with essentially doing what it took the entire orchestra to do in the course of the movement. So
wow.
let's see if I can manage any of that.
Looking forward.
drum concerto.
That was so fantastic. Thank you so much for playing that for us.
Got to get my Princess Leia back on.
It does look like Princess Leia. That was fantastic. I loved it. And I loved how you held the tension of it for the whole cadenza. And that, amongst all the other technical things and bring on themes, I think one part of the cadenza that as musicians, you have to kind of hold the tension of the audience throughout the whole thing, right?
The cadenza was a chance for the musician to improvise, right? And although now I don't know anybody who would have the audacity to improvise, we have to still make it seem as though we're improvising. We have to essentially do a monologue on stage, let the audience into our train of thought, and the train of thought has to be very stream of consciousness. But coherent.
Yeah.
So it's one of the reasons why, when people say, well, in order to be a musician, you should be able to write your own music. I don't know, to be a good actor, I don't think you have to be a playwright. And arrogant as I am, I would never dare, well, maybe not, I would not currently dare to even begin to think about writing a cadenza for something as epic as Beethoven.
Yeah, I think you nailed something that I think is quite interesting about a cadenza, and it's like a monologue. When you see in a movie and you know it's a monologue, or when you go to a theater and you see it's a monologue, suddenly everything just starts to focus into that one person, that one moment, and it's a chance to. I don't think it's a chance to shine so much as a chance to really speak and say something, within the 3 to 4
original.
minutes.
What are you bringing to this thing that has existed for centuries?
Absolutely. And how can you bring in all the themes and other things that has happened so far and might happen later on, but mostly what's happened so far, and bring it into context of like not just the orchestra and what they're saying, but just what am I saying as a soloist? So what am I saying as a musician?
What is my personal take on this thing that if you recite Hamlet's speech, this is reciting the commentary that is not in the script.
Yeah, and you refer to certain themes and you say, oh, remember that thing? Remember that thing that happened? This is how it all blends in. And of course,
I don't know if you noticed, for violinists, this is the thing that is drummed into us, and I don't know if the listeners noticed, but towards the end of the cadenza, Kreisler has this brainstorm that I don't remember any other composer or violinist composer having. He combines the two main themes. So he's got the and underneath it he has, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure that any composer would say, well, of course, that's self-evident, but to a violinist, it's not self-evident.
And I love how it's almost impossible in my mind to wrap around, because I have two hands. I'm a pianist, and I feel like I can play one theme on one hand and another theme on another one. But you have to fit all that within, 4
fingers.
4 fingers. Yeah, exactly. 4 fingers.
You don't even get one hand.
And 4 strings. 4 fingers, 4 strings. We have 88 keys, 2 hands.
It's one of the things that I suspect is the cause for, I don't know if you've noticed this, but many competitions, violin competitions trend younger. Violin competition winners tend to cluster around between ages 16 and 22. By contrast, piano competition winners tend to cluster around ages 27 to 30.
Yeah. Why is that?
Here's my theory. You please tell me if you think I'm wrong. Yeah. I think that once you've reached a certain level of piano ability, once you can just basically play the piano, you or Horowitz are doing the same notes. So what is it that makes Horowitz something that is beyond, other pianists? What is it that makes a certain pianist a legend? And I think it is an understanding of music, a deeper understanding of music that other instrumentalists don't really need to concern themselves with. For one of my great friends from college, a tenor, he said, for me, when I sing a concert, it's very easy. I just have to come in, I have to sort of towards the end lay my high C on the table and hold out my palm for the check.
Yeah.
And for you poor slob, you have to do the left hand pizzicato and the double harmonics and the this and that. For piano, you don't have all these different sort of show-offy techniques. So what do you have? You have a complete understanding of the score. You have to have a complete understanding of the score at the level of an orchestral conductor. And I think that takes an actual chronological maturity and a musical maturity that is almost impossible to attain when you're 16 or 17.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about the maturity, and it's also amassing material. And what I find fascinating about this music, and Rachmaninoff also echoes this, is that the more you know, the more you find out you don't know. And so
yes.
when you get told to get given an opportunity to play a Mozart concerto, suddenly you're thinking, oh, what about performance practice? What about my own cadenza? Should I write that? Or what about this? Am I using this sound right? Oh, this piano is really big. Mozart would never use this. How do I play it differently? There's all these other things that swirl around you other than just playing the notes.
And for piano, it becomes apparent when you are not aware of all the different things that are happening, all the layers that are happening. You're sort of like the lighter, I forget the name of the person in a stage crew who shines the light on whatever a character needs to be, brought out. But a clueless lighting guy is going to have the spot going, any which way, right?
Yeah.
Similar to a pianist who just plays a bunch of notes, 10 fingers all at once, and all of them are equally important. Of course, they're not.
Yeah, and I think it's similar with violin playing too. And what I like about violin is sometimes you actually get to lead the orchestra. Like there's conductorless performances of concerti, and you have to lead them. And so you're conducting, and pianists also tend to do that too, because I guess they were traditionally doing that.
You would do that maybe for a Mozart concerto, but I would genuflect before you if you had the courage to do that for Rachmaninoff too.
Yeah, that's true. Not many people do. I think there's probably one or two who have done it in the past.
Really?
It's possible. Yeah, I think at least with Brahms' second, the Brahms' second concerto, I think Daniel Barenboim just did it, with and played. But Daniel Barenboim is a piece of work. He's just one
like
in a
Bernstein.
million.
We're talking about the whole package in one human, right?
Absolutely. So actually, talk about competition. We briefly touched upon this. There's a question I want to ask you that I feel might be really useful to our audience, and that is that winning this competition and winning all these other ones, what has that done for your career? Do you feel like in hindsight that, because I think at a young age, we all think competition and winning them it's like so important. Like that's all we do. At conservatory we're talking about what competition you're doing next. Have you won anything? All that, and it's just become so big. In hindsight, what do you think about competitions, and how has it contributed to your career, or has it not really contributed?
I think competitions give you some sort of credentials, but none of my competition wins, I feel, did something for my career in the sense of that one performance opportunity that opened a whole bunch of doors. Whatever doors get open sort of by happenstance and serendipity. I think that there are, for violin at least, 2 or 3 competitions left in the world that can make a career. And even those would be the Indianapolis, the Queen Elizabeth in Brussels, and the Tchaikovsky. And even those, top tier competitions, there are plenty of winners whom no one's, remembering now. People who play no worse than the people who won 4 years before them or 4 years after, but for whatever reason the stars didn't align. And that's for the top tier competitions. By last count, there are over 103 international competitions in the world. There's no way that there's going to be 103 new stars every year. So in that sense, I don't think that you're absolutely right. In conservatory days, we're all sort of competition oriented. And we have this feeling that, it's going to be like the Oscars. You're going to get the prize awarded to you, and people will be banging on your door in the middle of the night offering you recording contracts. No, they won't.
Yeah.
But without the competitions to prepare for, without the forced self-examination of playing against, the best and brightest from around the world, you have a very difficult time getting a sense of what is and isn't okay. What kind of errors are normal? What kind of development is, above par, below par? You do need some sort of context in order to maintain your growth as you stop being a kid, stop being a student, and start being a young artist. So for that, I'm going to forever be grateful to competitions. They kept me practicing. They forced me to learn some repertoire that I might not have otherwise learned. They forced me to re-examine my playing in terms of what am I listening for.
Absolutely.
And of course, they introduced me to some people that I'm still fortunate to count as friends decades later.
Yeah, so I think I like what you said about, I want to highlight the one word prepare, which is something I want to ask you about next, which is it actually helps you feel like have something to prepare for.
Yes.
And it gives you certain goals to prepare for, so that you realize, no, in order to play something at the best level I can on this stage, I need these tasks. I need to plan well. I need to be organized. I need to make sure that I have all the rep ready, a week or 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and I'm already playing for everybody so that it's so comfortable. So, I want to also ask you about, as you're preparing for this, a concert, hopefully it's not as nerve-wracking as having to replace your mother or, for a competition. What have you been doing in terms of preparation? Could you share some of your own tips, or perhaps what you would tell students as they're preparing for a competition?
Well, the preparation for a concert versus a competition is also different because of the times of your life that you are, probably doing the one or the other. Right now, for example, in preparing for a concert on Saturday, I'm a father of 4. I have triplet boys who are 7 years old, and their younger sister who is 4. And to ask my wife to deal with all of that by herself, I think the Geneva Convention prohibits it. So,
yeah.
I do have to participate in running a household. Similarly, when I'm a student, I don't have to worry about pulling in this amount of income per month, or else, I'm going to lose my house, my car, whatever. So there are the realities of everyday life when you're preparing for concerts, but the trade-off is presumably you've already, as the mafiosi say, you've already made your bones. You've already, made your first kill. So you are not in need of the same kind of let's lock myself up in a room and practice 12 hours a day kind of approach.
Yeah.
As far as preparing for a competition, I had a both advantage and disadvantage in that my mother was a competition laureate of 3 of the biggest, the Jacques Thibault, Marguerite Long-Jacques Thibault in Paris, the Tchaikovsky competition in Moscow, and the George Enescu in Bucharest. So she would tell me how in the height of the Cold War, when Soviet musicians were not just tasked with going and playing well, they were tasked with their country's honor.
Yeah.
How they were prepared. And it was no joke. So, first of all, by a month or 2 before the competition, all of the repertoire is learned. If you are still learning repertoire a month before, according to the Soviet idea, you're not going.
Yeah.
Right? Secondly, by about a month before, you are performing the repertoire that you have learned. It has had time to be learned, to become second nature, to feel familiar to you, and now you go out and you start performing. And in the Soviet Union, for all of its many horrors, the fact that the state interfered in musicians' lives meant that, for my mother at least, she would be given a concert tour where the entirety of the program would be played repeatedly. Can you imagine what it would be like to walk out onto an international competition stage knowing that you've just played the Brahms Second Piano Concerto 5 times in the last 2 weeks?
Yeah. The level of confidence, the level of familiarity. You're like, I know where the tricky spots are. I know where I can just relax. I know.
Well, you're telling a story that you know intimately. Think of a joke that you like to tell friends. The first time that you tell it, you're probably going to change some word order. You might change a detail, an adjective somewhere, but you know the joke. You know the gist of it, so you can manipulate it. For people like me who like to cook, think of a recipe that you know intimately well.
Absolutely.
So I can make a risotto with peppers, but I can also make a risotto with mushrooms.
Yeah.
Risotto, right?
Yeah.
Brahms concerto. This orchestra just is taking a slower tempo. I'm not flummoxed.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I started preparing for my competition wanderings, I did a total of I got prizes at a total of 9 competitions. I did more than that. But when I started competing in such a way that I started actually making the final round consistently, what changed was that I called them giglets. I would do outreach performances at retirement communities, at schools. I would run my program in the run-up to the competition. The difference was that when I'm playing in a retirement community and I don't give it my all, odds are no one's going to come and yell at me. Yeah. But for people like my mother and for her generation, even for a subsequent generation, they when they were playing somewhere in a godforsaken spot in the midst of the tundra, they still had to give it their all.
Yeah, like someone was listening. People were still keeping an eye, and I think that's. I have such admiration for these people, because it's the pressure of not just your own pressure, or the pressure of your parents and your teachers and your school, but also the country is on your shoulders, and it's immense.
I can tell you two stories about that. One sort of terrifying, and one sort of how should I put this? It seems like I'm telling tales out of school about my mother. So the first terrifying story is that. I don't remember the exact year, but in preparation for what used to be the Eugene Zaï competition and was about to become the Queen Elizabeth competition, David Oistrakh was preparing his son Igor to go and compete.
Right.
And one fine day he got a phone call from Stalin. And Joseph Stalin said, David Fyodorovich, are you certain that your son is going to win in Brussels? Wow. Remember who was talking, right? Joseph Stalin.
Yeah.
Mass murderer of about 20 million people. Right?
Oh my goodness.
Are you certain that your son is going to win in Brussels? Oistrakh says, of course, Comrade Stalin. He's absolutely ready. Comrade Oistrakh, allow me to be more clear. Are you personally promising me that your son is going to come back with a gold medal?
Wow.
Of course, Comrade Stalin. Next day, Igor Oistrakh showed up with his left thumb heavily bandaged to the conservatory. Either he had accidentally cut it, on purpose cut it, sprained it, who knows. But that's when Leonid Kogan was tapped with 45 days advance notice to go and compete. And he won.
Jeez.
Right? And the opposite end of the spectrum, because my mother grew up in that atmosphere, when I won my second ever prize, the National Federation of Music Clubs, the decision was announced somewhere around midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning. I called my mother, so she was a little groggy. And I said, Mom, they just announced it. I got first. And my groggy mother said, were they deaf? And I said, thanks, Mom. And she said, I heard you practicing, or rather not practicing, so were they deaf?
Who's on the jury? Who are these? Who are these people on the jury?
I have no recollection of who was on that jury.
No, I'm just saying, like, she must be thinking, like, who's listening to you? Like, who's?
What are they listening for?
Yeah. How much did you pay them? No, I'm just. Oh, look, this has been such a great pleasure. I feel like we could talk for at least another half an hour. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for playing so beautifully for us, and it's such a pleasure to hear you. For everyone interested and available, and in town, please head to hear him play live with the Manassas Symphony Orchestra. Yes,
I have to give two plugs. A plug and a warning.
Do.
The plug is that it's one of the nicest halls in the greater Washington area. It is modeled on La Scala, and it's just a sheer joy to play there. The little warning is that please, if you want to go, check out the COVID protocols. Yes. Here in the States, it is a little tricky. On the one hand, we're opening up. On the other hand, especially for people like myself with kids, getting COVID tests, especially for kids under 12 who can't be vaccinated, getting COVID tests can be both expensive and time-consuming. So please check out the Manassas Symphony's website or the Hylton Performing Arts Center's website, and I'm sure they will have all the relevant information for you.
Thank you. Well, once again, I wish I were there. I wish I could come and hear you live. That would be amazing. But alas, I'm in Sydney, Australia. One day I'll be back in North America.
Give my regards to my first ever classical podcast guest, Andrew Havron, the concertmaster in Sydney.
Oh, really? Oh, lovely. That's excellent. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. We want to say a big thanks to our producer, Ante, for putting us all together, making it all work. Thank you to the team behind it. And of course, thank you again to our audience. Please check out our website, soundespressivocompetition.com. Emil Chudnovsky will be one of our judges, and I can't wait to see you again, to chat with you again. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
No matter where you are or who you are, music connects us all. We started with a dream, but now we are paving the future. Welcome to the Sound Espressivo Global Competition. Fully virtual, yet bringing musicians closer together than ever before, now on a global scale. True live, inclusivity, diversity, connection, community. an extraordinary array of judges. Get noticed by companies all over the world. Prizes, scholarships, performance opportunities. Apply to be a part of the most exciting congregation of artists like nothing you've ever seen before. We guarantee quality and leave no musician behind. We can't wait to hear you on the virtual stage.